But now that one of the single biggest tax reforms in the history of India has actually now come to pass, we have with us one of the people who's the architect, but not just of GST, but the entire Indian economy as well, Mr. Arvind Subramanian. It's always a great pleasure, sir, to be speaking to you. Just tell us your thinking, the sort of an impact that this is going to have on the Indian economy. Does it come from simplification? Does it come from bringing more people into the tax net? A combination of both, common market? What, to your mind, is the major impact of GST on the Indian economy?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, this is truly a kind of historic landmark achievement, one of the most ambitious reforms ever. But I think...
Did you ever think it would come to pass?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, you know, we've all been doubters all along. Let's be honest, because something on this scale, you know, to pull off
doubters of the policy, or doubters of the fact that it would actually
doubters of not of the policy at all. We're all complete converts to the policy. At least I am. But you know, about actually making it happen. You know, so many glitches and hurdles along the way. Political, technical, economic, administrative. So that was the doubt. But it's historic in many ways. I mean, broadly, there's the whole economic side to the achievement, some of which you mentioned. I would single out the fact that, you know, basically we're moving towards, you know, from a fragmented economic India, we're going to become, you know, kind of one market, one tax, one India. I think that's major. It means, you know, goods move freely within the country. It means much better compliance benefits because of having common IT system and compliance matching happening. The seamless flow of credit and, you know, the boost to investment, the boost to growth, the tax base becoming more buoyant. So it's a huge economic benefits. But also, I think, for me, actually as important, if not even more important, that this has given kind of flesh to cooperative federalism, Indian cooperative federalism at its best. We have now both a process. We've shown that India, the center, and the states can do things together, frankly, on a very, very important matter.
And not just the center and the state, but also all opposition parties got together in this case, along with the government.
Correct.
A constitutional amendment happened.
Exactly.
So in a sense, they may have argued about how to celebrate it at midnight, but at the end of the day, all parties did come together.
It's not just center and states, but, you know, across the political spectrum. And then, of course, then the private sector has been brought in as well. So I think it's a mega achievement in that sense. And an ongoing one. Remember, it's one thing to bring it to this, but we've also created in the GST Council a governance mechanism for cooperative federalism on an ongoing basis, and you know, truly makes a federal structure, you know, worth having.
That's an interesting point that you're making. So going forward, because quite often, and it's not just in economics, it's in a number of other issues, where sometimes governance and the ease of people's lives gets affected because there are state laws and central laws, and how are you going to get them to actually, you know, tally and work well together? This sets the precedent for how it can happen in other areas also.
Actually, that is a very important point, because, see, I think in some ways for a federal structure to work, you know, the center and the states both have to be strong, and they have to work together on many matters of common purpose, right? We've shown now we can do it in the tax arena. The question is, can we extend it to all other areas of development, whether it's water or agriculture or, you know, corruption or ease of doing business, you know. So it shows what's possible.
But some of the states are nervous about that, because they are also viewing this as the thin end of the wedge, where the powers of the states could be eroded. We've seen, I'm sure you must have seen some of the criticism that has come in, notably, obviously, from West Bengal, Kerala. There are other states who said there are issues with it, not just the fact that they think this has been rushed through, we're not ready for it, but also because they are wondering as to what this will eventually mean for the power of the states.
Yeah, I think on that, you know, I want to say two things which are very important, right? First, I think the GST Council has shown that, you know, you work on the basis of consensus. So it's a truly democratically deliberative process. So I think, you know, I don't think anyone can say things have been rammed through. You know, I've been attending almost all the meetings of this council, and it's been remarkable, the quality and the spirit of decision making. So I think one. Second thing, also to reassure the states, and the states are aware of this, even on the tax matter, what I think is nice is that we've pooled sovereignty without taking away the autonomy of the states. Remember, the states can still generate a lot of revenue from indirect taxes on alcohol, petroleum, power, etc. So they've pooled sovereignty in some areas, but they've certainly still retained sovereignty in other areas. So the notion that they've completely lost out, I mean, is not quite right.
So you're describing the meetings and what's been happening inside the GST Council. I just wanted to get a sort of an inside view at that. Was it one of the intentions that you and the government and the finance minister and everyone had, was to say, look, let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. So maybe this is not the perfect GST, but let's take what we can get and let's run with it, and then we'll try and fix it as it goes forward.
Exactly. So I think it. Remember,
was that the way you approached it?
Absolutely. And one way to put it is that the GST is not a destination. We've embarked on a journey in some ways, and we need to traverse that journey ahead, because there are deficiencies in what we have now. Certainly we've improved enormously on what we've inherited, but there's a lot of scope for improvement, both in simplifying the rates, but also we've left out large chunks from the base. So, but I think the way to view this is that if this deliberative process that we have, it's worked so far, I think we should trust it to work well going forward to make the improvements that this requires.
So you're saying something very important. You're saying it's a process, not a destination. So what we're having right now, you're saying, is not perfect. It's like a halfway house or a two-thirds house, and there are still things that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
What would those things be? I mean, obviously the multiplicity of rates would probably be one of them. You're having 5 rates or 6 rates. If you add cesses and zeros, it becomes 7 rates, which is complicated. The fact, and I was talking to Mr. Adya, and he was saying that even the nomenclature of saying that 3 returns have to be filed every month, perhaps is a complication that could have been done away with. What are the other factors that you will say that needs to be fixed in what we have?
For me, the 2 big fixes will have to be, one is the rates. I think we need to over time move to no more than 2, maybe 2 to 3 rates. I think, I don't think we can dream about 1 rate, but I think, given the way, the divergent interests and different objectives that we have, be difficult. But to me, equally important, maybe even more important, is the base. I think land and real estate, power, health, education, alcohol, petroleum, at some stage we have to aspire to bring all these into the net, because that's what because remember, the wider the base, the more you can bring down rates and you get better compliance.
And the reason that those were left out was because you felt that to get that consensus, and this required a certain amount of consensus, you go along with the, in a sense, the lowest common denominator, that it was possible to sign up everyone on.
Actually, here, let me say something that's a new idea, but I think that since you've asked that question, see, I think that it's a combination of 2 things. One, what you said, divergent interests, let's, agree on some common denominator, let's not push some people very much, but that's one aspect of it. I think the second aspect of it is what I would call the legacy aspect. In some ways, we inherited these omissions, as it were, from the work of the Empowered Committee in the past. And there was a certain history, there were certain protagonists and antagonists at that point in time that changed over time, as governments changed and so on. And in some ways, I think if some of these things had been done at different moments in time, we might have been able to achieve more. But the fact of having inherited some stuff, for example, I think that people just assume that, because we inherited that land and real estate were out, we had to move that. But had we had more time, for example, we could have made progress on some of these.
Did you ever consider delaying it just for the sake of getting to more consensus on the possibility of getting more people in, or for that matter, trying to reduce the number of rates? Maybe with the passage of time, you could have done that. Or did you feel, look, let's go ahead, let's not delay it any further?
Yeah, because I think that it's the latter, because remember that at some stage, you can't keep talking about having a GST. You have to, actually do it, and then we hope that things will improve over time.
Where time may have helped, and this again is some of the criticism that some of the states have made, is that look, we're not completely ready. There's still confusion. A lot of people haven't understood it. Traders still don't completely know what form to do. How are we supposed to do it? What is the process that it will work? So that's some of the criticism that's coming in. There's going to be massive teething problems because we're not ready for it.
Yeah, you see, I think I can almost say for sure that there is no perfect time to implement it, because even if you delayed it by 3 months, there would be the same, incompleteness of preparation. So I think in this, my sense was that, you take the plunge. there are going to be teething problems whether you do it today or 3 months down the road, and just work through them rather than wait for there's never a perfect moment.
So no matter when you give a deadline, it could be today, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months from
now,
now, there will be some short-term pain. Yeah. And are you anticipating a lot of short-term pain? I mean, look, people have often tried to compare this to what just happened with demonetization, another idea which may have long-term benefits, but there was a lot of short-term pain. Is this another example of that, where you are anticipating a certain amount of short-term pain?
Yeah, but I think I don't quite like the analogy because they're very different.
They're not very different.
Yeah, because here the short-term teething challenges are more about, will the technology work, right? Will the compliance cost, how much burden will there be? How much unfamiliarity will there be? And with this, we know that, within a few months, these things will sort themselves out. So in some ways, one can see the kind of light at the end of the tunnel right away.
It's also partly the traders and others saying, we don't know how to get these systems to work. We don't know computers. How are we going to input credits into a computer when we don't know how to do it? We are not literate in computing and IT. Those are some of the sort of concerns that people have.
Yeah.
And it would have to be done at some point, I guess.
Yeah, it would have to be done at some point. And I think that there's also the sense that, now that it's going to happen, now that, people know it's going to happen, the advantage of a credible deadline is that it just forces people to get to speed with preparation. And I think probably in the last 2 to 3 weeks, a lot of that has happened. Obviously not fully, but I expect that over time, next, 3 to 6 months, we should tide over these challenges.
So one of the things that this, of course, does is it forces a large number of people who are outside the formal economy to get into the formal economy. That, I think, would be one of the parallels with demonetization, that was, in a sense, force people to do it. It's again going to happen out here. At the end of the day, is that as big a positive in your view as the single market? Because more people out there in the formal economy paying taxes, maybe it'll help you moderate taxes.
Yeah, true. I think the compliance gains and the reduction in corruption, whatever, from existing taxpayers and bringing in more taxpayers into the net are huge advantages of the new system. Yeah. So the whole, formalization of the economy, reducing black money, and remember, the other angle to this is that there will be huge collateral benefits on the corporate and income tax side in terms of compliance, because the information that you're going to get with reasonable data analytics, you can then, improve compliance on that side as well.
So if there's a specific benefit that people will look at and say, what's in it for me? Prices and all of that is fine. There'll be moderation there. Economy is one. The eventual reduction of rates. Now, you were saying that long-term, medium-term to long-term, you would like to see the rates collapsing. Would you also like to see the rates collapsing at lower levels? Because with higher compliance, it should be possible to have moderate rates.
Absolutely. I think over time, the more of the tax base you bring in, more compliance you get, more the buoyancy of revenues, both on the indirect and the direct tax side. The scope then for having uniform and lower rates, the scope is enormous.
So long term, what would be your ideal? You said 2 rates, maybe 3 rates, medium rate, demerit rate. What would be your ideal and your personal view?
I don't have a but in principle, I think we should get down to something like somewhere between around 12, 13, 14% long term.
As the medium sort of a rate?
As a kind of quasi-uniform, or if you wanted conceptually one rate, getting to the low double digits is, I think, would be the ideal.
And that then becomes a central sort of a rate eventually in the future, and you can have maybe zero or negligible for what poor are consuming, and maybe some higher rate for what the rich have. Is that sort of a scenario?
So broadly. Because, when I wrote the report on the revenue neutral rate, I had wanted something like a 15% uniform rate, but given the current tax base as we have it, if you can expand it, if you can get more formalization, if you can get more compliance from within the current thing, I think what we can do with lowering tax rates is quite good.
Right. One final question, just seeing as I do have you sitting in front of me, the overall state of the economy and the other things that need to be done, are you reasonably satisfied? Growth, for example, is this going to lead to a hit on growth, or do you think that if so, it will be short term?
Yeah, firstly, on the overall state of the economy, we're in the process of preparing our economic survey, which will come out around the 3rd week of July. this third week of this month, which will have a more, considered view on the whole economy. So I think we should wait. But on the GST, there will be implementation challenges from this. But whatever the impact will be temporary. In the long run, it's going to boost growth potential substantially.
All right. So substantially, the economy is still in good shape.
I didn't say that.
We'll wait till the survey. We'll wait till the survey
but
comes out.
certainly, if you look at some of the other news that's come out on, the disinvestment and things, I mean, there's some good news, but there are also lots of macro challenges ahead. So, it's all a package.
It's all a package. Well, many congratulations for getting GST through, and let's hope that the short-term pains can be minimized and the long-term benefits can be maximized. Thank you so much for speaking to us.